I'm Colleen.
I'm Natasha.
And I'm Joshua Rush.
So Halloween is tomorrow, but more importantly, Election Day is next week.
Yes.
It's so cool because you take your limited time off and you use it to, encourage people to get out there and vote. I think that's really awesome, especially because you can't legally vote yet.
Yeah, which is frustrating.
So frustrating.
But you can encourage other people to.
Exactly.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I'd love to hear sort of how that spirit was instilled in you and how you got really into that side of things.
Yeah, I first got interested in the news after the 2012 elections. And I watched the coverage of, I was watching CNN and watching all the results come in. I didn't understand anything that was going on. So as I started to watch and I had my laptop in front of me and Googling everything that happened, I realized, oh my gosh, this is so freaking cool. I want to learn more about this. And it just it turned from an interest to a fascination, to an obsession, to a complete news addiction, which is basically what I'm at now.
Well, what's the best way for someone who doesn't know anything, how to start?
News in a Rush.
News in a Rush. I mean, yeah, not to toot my own horn, but News in a Rush, at News in a Rush on Instagram.
There's something going on in Bangladesh that you probably don't know about. Not many people do, and it's affecting kids our age. This is News in a Rush, a minute where I help you understand the news.
The news has such a huge learning curve, and it's so hard to understand everything that's going on because there's layers and layers and layers and layers of history and politics and fighting that has happened for every single argument that we're having today. One of the things that I did to not only help others understand the news better, but also help me understand it better, is break down the news into little teeny tiny bite-sized pieces, which I do once a week in 60 seconds or less on News in a Rush, which is at News in a Rush on Instagram. And I'm doing a bunch of midterms coverage. There's an episode coming out the day before, and there's an episode coming out the day after the midterms, and an episode coming out the week after, so I have a little more time to prepare. For all of those, I'm just trying to explain everything that's happening in the best way that I can, but I only have 60 seconds to do it, so it's up to you guys to research in a little bit more and understand what I'm talking about a little bit more to yourselves.
You were down in Texas, right?
I was!
You met Beto?
I met Beto O'Rourke.
Oh my gosh.
He is so amazing. It was the most incredible week of my life. I got to work on the campaign and work with his campaign staff and meet him and go to the events and call people and just talk about this amazing candidate who I love personally so much.
How did you get involved? How did that all transpire?
Yeah, well actually it started on this trip to Washington, D.C. that I took a little while ago. And I was with my Congressmember Karen Bass. And I had gotten this connection with her because I had applied for an internship with her a while ago for her LA office, and I had just reached out the week before, and they were like, yes, come hang out with her for an hour, and we ended up spending 2.5 hours together, and she got called to vote on the floor of the House of Representatives. Wow. So I got to go and sit in the members' family gallery of the House, right up, and see.
Gosh.
It was so cool. It was this is, oh my god, it was
It's so cool to see how passionate you are about that.
It was fantastic, and after she had voted, she came back up and she was like, hey, is there anyone in the House that you'd like to meet? And I was like,
come on.
Well, I'd like to meet Beto if that's an option. She was like, sure.
Yeah.
And I walked down onto the House floor and I shook his hand and I met him, and later I met him just completely by chance on another time in Washington.
Yeah.
And he connected me, he gave me his Gmail. And which
got
was wild.
Gmail.
Wow. Connected.
Is his email address betoshipspyrus@gmail.com?
I hope it. I wish it was.
And you're also going door to door and canvassing in Utah, and so it's you and Lilan, right?
Me and Lilan, not necessarily canvassing. While the deadline was still open, we went out with an organization called Voterize, and we went and got people registered in person, at parks and at doors and in neighborhoods. And we would just go and be like, hi, are you registered to vote? And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, are you sure? And they'd be like, no. I was like, do you want to register? And they say, no.
Did anybody recognize you guys?
A couple of people did, but for the most part, we're only talking to adults. So,
sure.
Not exactly the target demographic of Andi Mack.
So one thing that we really try to show with YSB now is you don't have to be famous to make a difference. You don't have to be
Absolutely.
famous to have your voice heard.
Absolutely. So there are organizations like Voterize all over the world and all over the country. So if you could find your voter registration drives, that would be the thing to look up. Or find out on my Tumblr, I just finished this week writing a huge list of every single toss-up race. And if you see a toss-up House race near you and you want to get involved on whichever side you want, you should look it up. You should go to that campaign's website, and on almost all of those there will be like parts of that website where you can volunteer and you can go there and work for that campaign. Get involved. Do everything you can, because if you can't vote, you've got to find some other way to make your voice heard. I'm Joshua Rush, and you're so beautiful now. And make sure to vote this election day if you can!